July 18th, 2022. You're listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. I am Kevin.
And I am Don.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
Welcome.
We have not done a show in an entire week. And,
One full week.
It's been, a lot's been happening around here in the world of, not really.
I'll tell you, it has.
Oh yeah? For you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
geez.
Last week, my mom got COVID.
Oh, no.
Yes.
How is she?
She's all right.
Thank goodness.
No, she was feeling really bad. And I think like after I got off of here with you.
That's when she got it, because I gave
last
it to her.
week. Yeah, it came through, but I didn't get it. I think I walked out of here and I was like, all right, well, I'm taking off. I'll see you later. And she's like, okay.
Oh.
I was just like, whoa. I was like, I don't think you're that tired. But anyways,
was she, I'm sorry, was she just recently in Scotland or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a month and a half ago.
Oh, okay. So not right away. I got you.
Yeah, no. My nephew is getting married. My youngest nephew, I think he is. Whatever. I only had 3 of them. One of them's dead. So yeah, the youngest one. He's getting married. I guess he got engaged.
Okay.
And so they had a big dinner party with the parents and the grandparents of each side of the family, and everybody got together.
Right.
And so my mom went, and my sister-in-law's mother, after the dinner, said, "Oh, guys, it looks like I got COVID." And everybody was just like, "Uh-oh." So my mom took a COVID test, and it came out negative. And she goes, "Well, I feel like crap." Her throat was all wasted. She was like, "I feel like I got bronchitis or something." So I went to work, and then my brother texted us like halfway through the day. He's like, "All right, guys, I'm at Southwest General with Mom."
Oh,
it's just like, oh, okay. So something happened. It turned out she had low sodium.
Oh,
and COVID.
Oh,
so the IV fixed the sodium, but
low sodium. That's hard to do, man. All I eat is sodium.
Right.
Jeez.
That's what I told her. I was like, just start eating some potato chips. Let's go. She's like, I can't. I was like, all right, fair enough. But so yeah, she stayed overnight for a couple of nights at the hospital, and they got that all taken care of.
Do you know if they gave her like that Paxlovid or anything?
I don't ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah. I don't know what they gave her. And even if I asked her, she probably wouldn't remember. So
Got it.
You know, it's just kind of like the stroke and all that stuff. It's just like, I don't remember. But yeah, so she's doing all right. She finally ate today. She ate more than once today. So it's like, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Getting your appetite back. And I've been trying to stay either out of here, obviously, or in my room.
Right.
And put a mask on when I go out there and stuff like that. And even then, I'm just like, I'm not trying to stand out here for more than 2 minutes. Like, I just want to come out and see if you're okay. She wants to tell me stories of her childhood. And I'm just like, no, I got to go.
You might want to know those stories. You don't know.
I know. I mean, I know, but it's just like, I want to sit here and listen to your stories, but I don't want to sit here and get COVID again.
Oh, yeah. It is really contagious, this new strain that's going on.
Right. So I was like, I'm trying not. And then I go over to the girlfriend's house, and she's freaking out because she's like, do you have it? And I go, I don't think I have it. I feel fine and all that stuff. She goes, okay. And then she calls me back and goes, oh, my daughter's boyfriend has COVID. And it's just like, oh, great. She's like, I just saw them yesterday. So the two of us are looking at each other like, you got it? Oh, you got it? Like, I don't know. I feel fine. Do you feel fine? I feel fine. I think I got a tickle in my throat. What? It's like, wait, what are you saying? So it's been an interesting week.
Larry's got it, I guess.
Again? Didn't he already have it?
Well, apparently with this new strain, even if you had Omicron, ago,
I mean, you can get it again, but I mean,
you can get this new strain. I guess is totally goes around previous infections and vaccines and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I know. I mean, it seems inevitable. I was debating on getting the 4th shot, but I was reading advice out of Canada because they just seem like they're more, they're not as politically motivated. I guess.
They're more into helping people as opposed to
it's just
making money.
And they're like, if you're 65 and up, or you're in one of those high risk groups, diabetes, really obese, or whatever, then you should get the 4th shot. But if you're under 65 and you're relatively healthy, 3
Don't
shots
worry.
is enough, basically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, because I mean, this thing goes around the shot anyway, and the shot's just going to help you stay out of the hospital, basically.
Right.
You know, that's what they
Right.
say. But it sounds to me like, I mean, I've had this same shot 3 times. Like, I want to get the one in the fall if it's safe, you know, and because that one's going to target this new strain, as well as reinforce the previous one. But I don't know. You know, we'll see. I mean, I think it's just this race now where this thing keeps mutating, and we have a solution for it, but it's always like months later, you know,
Right.
like months and months. So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. You know, but I got it last time. It wasn't fun, and it sounds like this one's worse, but I'm pretty sure I'll be all right. You never know. Maybe I'll die.
Right.
But
anyways, I didn't mean to.
If Larry can survive it, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, right. If he can survive anything.
So anything else?
No. Daughter's starting to do the driving classes in car
Oh, I remember
this week.
those.
Yeah, so she's doing that. And it's just like, I'm glad I don't have to do it.
Does that mean you're never going to see her again, though, because she's just going to drive herself everywhere and not hang out with you?
Oh, I don't know. Her mom got a car for her.
Oh, wow.
It's a little crappy Vibe or whatever. That's what Sophie said. She goes, I saw this. She goes, I came home one day and there was this junker in the driveway, and I was like, hey, whose junk car is that? And they're like, yours. She was like, oh. So she's got this car, and I guess her mom and stepdad have been driving the car, like here and there, going to work and stuff like that. So the other day, I guess she was like, hey, is it okay if my boyfriend drives the car? We want to go to the drive-in, and it's got a better seat to sit in to watch the movie from inside the car. And they were like, yeah, you can, but you got to put gas in it. And she's like, what? I had gas in it. And they're like, yeah, well, you know, to be an adult, you got to learn how to put gas in your car, keep gas in your car. So she's like, I didn't even drive it. Like, who's driving it? And they're like, well, we drove it. She's like, so why do I got to put gas in it? And they're like, it's your car.
That's bullshit.
And I'm just like, I just shook my head. I was like, yeah, well, there you go, kid. I was like, go put gas in your car.
Oh, my God. That's funny.
So,
Poor girl.
but yeah, other than that, we're good. I'm good. Go ahead. Do whatever.
Especially with gas prices where they're at.
Oh, I know, right?
You know, if she has
Jerks.
a little car, I guess it's not too bad. Yeah, so I got the Steam Deck in the mail. If you don't know what a Steam Deck is, folks, and you live under a rock, because we used to do this show called Video Game News Radio, probably know what it is. Basically, Valve software. They created a handheld PC. It's basically what it is, right? It's got a big screen on it. That's a touch screen. And then it's got, you know, kind of like your standard controllers on the side. So it's got 2 thumbsticks. It's got the D-pad and the buttons. And it also has a couple of touchpad type buttons that can click around. And it lets you, you know, play your Steam PC games on it. And it runs on the Steam OS. And it's a nice little package. I mean, it has decent performance. It plays a good selection of the games. It won't play everything on Steam because it's using Steam OS, which is not Windows. And so the games, it's like a version of Linux, I think. And so the games have to be written to support that OS. And not all games do. In fact, the majority of games don't. However, my Steam library is pretty large, and I think I've got around 30 or 40 games that I can play on it off the bat that are like supported 100% by it. And then there's games that are playable, and those have some maybe like things about them that, you know, you got to do some tricks to make them to work right, etc. My biggest problem with playing PC games on handhelds, because I've done it before with tablets and that kind of thing, is that a lot of the text in games is really small. And if it's not adjusted, you know, and this does have a zoom feature, although it doesn't work great all the time. Sometimes it just like zooms in the whole screen. It's supposed to be that you can pan around, but sometimes it doesn't work. So then the larger text gets cut off. Because if you can't read what's going on, it's kind of annoying. Also, there's just some games, even with joysticks and touchpads and all this stuff, if you don't have a mouse and a keyboard, it's just not a very good experience. Is it playable? Yeah. Is it fun? Not really. So, but then there's also like tons of games that work just fine with it. And it's pretty good. My only gripe about it is that the battery life in it is terrible. And there's some tricks you can do to kind of, reduce some things to make it so the battery lasts a little bit longer. But, it's really pretty weak for being a handheld. And so then most of the time you're either going to have to plug it in or have some sort of, extra battery plug. You're still plugging it in, but you're plugging it into a battery in order to kind of give you more life on this thing. And so then it gets to the point where you're kind of like, well, if I need to have this extra stuff, like a battery and a wire and all this kind of thing and a charger, wouldn't it just make more sense if I just had like a laptop and a controller? Because then I would have the keyboard, I could have the mouse if I wanted to, I'd have the bigger screen, I could read the text, I could play all the games and not just the Steam games, right? And I would have a full controller, and probably it would be comparable in price. So it's sort of like this, it's kind of a niche-y item, I think, in that sense. And if I wasn't a collector, I don't think I would have bought it. Like I think like it's nice for what it is, but it's real limited in terms of what I could see myself using it for versus the alternative, especially because of having full support. Now you can add a monitor and a mouse and a keyboard to this, from what I understand. You can plug it into the USB-C port with a breakout box and drive all those things with it. But then again, if you got all that stuff, you could just get yourself a
PC,
a PC, a laptop or something. Danny, you're breathing into the mic a little bit. You might want to move that your nose just a touch. But I'm not knocking it. I think there's probably some subgroup of people out there that have a purpose in mind for it. It makes more sense for them, maybe the size of it, or the whatever, but I don't know. It's pretty good, but I'm not really trying to put it down. I'm just in my head, I'm just thinking to myself, like, if you're competing against the laptop and the controller and then the Steam Deck over here, it's like so much more you can do with the laptop and the controller. Like the Steam Deck's one advantage would be that you don't have all that bulk. You have this smaller thing,
right?
But the battery life is terrible. So then it's just kind of like, so I think like if Valve could refine this in the future, put a bigger battery in it, even if it makes it heavier, like just put a bigger battery in it, because that's really the positive of this thing would be like some battery life. And then at the same time, the screen has, screen's really nice. The screen's big, but it has some fairly, space, fairly large space taken up by the bevels around the screen. And hopefully they can eventually get it to where, like how the Switch is, the new Switch, where they sort of enlarged the screen but kept the same form factor, because, they used a different thing. Because if the screen was like a little bit bigger, I don't think even much, but if it was just a touch bigger, some of that text that's hard to read in games might pop out a little bit more. But, developers are, updating their games and making more things compatible all the time. I don't know how many developers are going to want to go back and change really old games to make it work on this, but some might. And Steam OS can be used on other platforms as well. So this isn't the only thing, but overall, it's a nice piece of kit. I am using it. I'm playing some things on it, etc. It just, because it's not a big deal. I just have a wire on there, but I used to just play on my laptop with a controller, so I don't know. Same thing. So anyway, all right. Anything else going on with me? Not really. I think I'm trying to think. My neck's still kind of messed up from the slip disc. I think I'm probably going to have surgery. Right. Because I've read a lot more about this cervical disc thing, and it just sounds like it's not going to get better on its own. Right. The ones in your lower back, for some reason, if the disc slips, they tend, not always, but they tend to shrink and dissolve or something, at least from what I read. But it seems like the ones in your neck don't. Now, they might shrink a little bit because they lose moisture, but then they get harder, and that can cause more aches and pains and things. So it's kind of like, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm 50. If I do it now or around now, maybe it takes a year to get everything worked out, but I'm relatively healthy. I don't have diabetes. I don't have a major disease. I'm not obese. My immune system's still good. So my risk of complications are going to be a lot lower than trying to wait it out until I'm like 60 or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And have a more complicated time to do it. So I'm going to talk to everybody involved and just see what they recommend. I mean, it's kind of like, the alternative, of course, is that I could die before I'm 60 from something else and not need the surgery at all.
Yeah, waste of time.
Right. Total waste of my time. But I keep going to the physical therapy and everything, and I'm able to do everything I normally can do, but I feel it a little bit in my right leg. And that's concerning because I don't want to be unable to walk. I'm not anywhere near that at this point, but occasionally my foot will drag a little bit, and I kind of notice it. I'm like, all right, dragging my foot a little bit, Yeah. And so it's like so it's not 100%. I guess that's what it is. And so we'll see. I'm going to meet with my spine doctor next month, talk to her about it, and then she'll probably tell me to go see the surgeon. So then I'll make an appointment with the surgeon, and Lord knows how long it takes to talk to one of those guys.
Right.
Get in and talk to him or her, and then see what they think and go from there. Maybe they'll want to do another MRI or something, or maybe they want to try different things. I don't know. It sounds like mostly what they do is they go into the front of your neck, and then they take care of the disc somehow, and then they fuse the vertebrae together. So they fuse the two that are the problem into one, and I guess 20% of the time the vertebrae don't fuse together, and they got to have another surgery where they go in through the back of your neck and fuse it from that side. Sounds great. Right. And then after that, you're pretty much okay. I don't think you're ever, obviously you've got two bones fused together
right,
in
yeah.
your neck. You're never going to be 100%. You got to wear like a neck brace for 6 weeks after, which is going to be ridiculous. But I mean, the alternative is that I'm just going to end up with permanent nerve damage anyway, and maybe be unable to walk or whatever. Start pissing myself is what they say can be a problem with it too. So that doesn't sound great.
No. Sorry.
So I don't know. But anyway, that's just on my mind. Nothing's happened with that at the moment. But yeah. So anyway, let's
what? Oh,
go ahead.
I was gonna come up with a big news story from this past week.
Oh, what's that?
I don't know how you feel about it though, because I don't know. You were never a big Pantera fan, were you?
Well, I heard that they're going to go on tour again, but I mean, the band, like the two brothers, are dead. So right. I mean, and it's Phil Anselmo, but who they didn't really want to be in the band as a reunion, right? And the bass player.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I mean,
it's a weird dichotomy where they're like, we're doing a Pantera reunion, and everybody's just looking around like, two of the dudes are dead. And the two main the dudes who started the band, the guys who were Pantera, are dead and not around. So, and it's like Phil's out there going like, I seen Rage Against the Machine do a reunion. I'm like, hell, Pantera could do this 10 times better. Like we could ruin places. And it's like, well, yeah, but you can't. And he's like, he's like, he's going to get Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benante from Anthrax, and they're going to tour. And he's like, yeah, we're and everybody's saying reunion. And I'm like, that's dumb. It's not a reunion. But then I guess Zakk Wylde came out today and was like, no, he goes, I'm considering it a tribute. He goes, I'm not in the band. He goes, I'm not in Pantera. So it's like the dude who's outside of the band is denying that he's in the band, while the lead singer is like, yeah, we're all getting the band together and it's going to be Zakk Wylde. He's like, no, it's a tribute. I'm not in the band. So it's just kind of funny. And I find myself at a spot where I'm like, do I want to go see this or not? Because Zach Wild, I have no problem with Zach Wild. He could play the songs and stuff. So it's just, I didn't know how you. I didn't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't go. I
don't.
wouldn't go see them. Like
I don't.
if even if the brothers were still around,
I don't even think you've seen them. Have you?
no. Like
Yeah. Okay. That wasn't your
I
thing.
appreciate them. I just never was that into them. I had their album
Right.
Cowboys from Hell. I mean, it's good and everything, but it was just yeah. I just didn't get into them like you guys did.
Right.
I mean,
That's
you
what
know, it's gonna have a decent turnout depending on what ticket prices are.
Right.
But I think also it's totally just a cash grab, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's what this is all
And
about.
a quote unquote tribute to the
Yeah,
music.
you know, and
Phil's broke.
maybe Vinnie Paul's wife needs money too if she's going to
Well,
let them do this kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They signed off on it.
Yeah, right.
The,
So
the estates.
that's what I'm saying. There's probably they're doing it for the money for some reason. So I can appreciate that if they need cash. Yeah, no, I don't. You know, I mean, as long as Phil Anselmo can still do what he does on vocals, which I don't know if he can or not, but
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm
I
sure
just thought
it'll be
I'd-
fine. Because I mean, how hard could it be?
Yeah, right. I can go do it for him.
No idea. No, that's. I guess I don't know. I guess that's interesting.
I just thought I'd see what you think because I know,
Well, Don
like I
Cease
said,
actually sent me a thing, and he was like, What do you guys think?" Although he only sent it to me, but he wrote, "What do you guys think?" And he sent me the link to it, and I told him, I mean, that's cool,
You're like, I don't-
but not me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not about it.
it's funny. Oz is going, so
Of course. Well, I mean, I don't know. You got to see how much tickets are, and in what format is they're going to come. Like, they might not
Right.
come by themselves. They might come in some festival
Festival.
or circuit or something.
that's what they're saying. They're doing like festival dates and like one-offs here and there.
Yeah. So, you going to pay $200 to go see Panthera? I don't know. Maybe
I'm not.
some people might.
Yeah, right. Some people will. So, anyways,
I don't know. All right, let's talk wrestling. Let's talk about wrestling.
wait, professional wrestling
Professional
or like amateur?
wrestling. No, the WWE
Greco.
stuff.
Greco-Roman.
I wanted to talk about it because about a month ago there was this thing where one of the referee girls had come out and said something that Vince McMahon
Oh yeah,
forced himself on her or
Office.
or something.
an office person.
Was it an office person? All right,
I believe so.
and in a
That's what the hush
limousine
money said.
or something,
Yeah,
and what like the McMahons confuse me, I guess. Like they seem like they're all very loyal to each other, into that business. They all seem to be involved with it.
Right.
Except I guess his wife became a politician or something.
Right.
Are they still married? I don't even know.
they're still married, but the rumor is it's out of convenience.
Okay.
It's like they've been living in separate rooms or whatever for like 10 years or something like that. It's like they're pretty much like divorced, but they're like, look, we'll just stay together. People think,
It's
like
just,
no-
yeah, that is, it is just unusual, right? That this guy, and you've heard stories and things about this guy all the time, but it's usually from disgruntled wrestlers, right?
Right.
Guys that, got their contracts cut, and then all of a sudden they're talking shit,
I didn't get the belt.
and then when they turn around and he hires them back, sometimes even after they've talked all kinds of shit about him.
Right.
Then all of a sudden they're singing his praises again. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those guys are just hard to trust. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are just,
They're all carnies.
yeah, they just seem like they're hot and cold with it, and it's all about the money, really, at the end of the day.
Right.
But what do you think in the terms of? Do you think he's that kind of a dude that he like? Do you think this guy's a rapist?
I don't think he's a rapist. I think he's someone with a lot of power and a lot of money who feels like he can influence people easily into doing what he wants. And then, I mean, because I'm not putting him up like on a Bill Cosby level where like he had to drug people and like physically rape them. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
whoever he was with, I don't think he forced himself on anyone. You know what I mean? And the thing is all these people, not all these people. I don't know how many there are. There's a couple. There's like 4 or 5 women allegedly, and one dude. I think one dude said he tried to come at him. So it was kind of weird.
That's a spin on it, but okay.
Yeah, right. All of the women have signed NDAs and received a payment from him personally, not the company. And this is like, I guess one was like in the 80s or something, or maybe it was like in the 90s. I don't know. I don't know when it was. I don't know what the dates were on it, because I listened to the beginnings. I listened to the majority of the stuff, but then I just tuned out the rest because people were just speculating and telling all this stuff. Because the past year, maybe 2, I don't know, I lost track. The rumors have been swirling that he was going to sell the WWE and just get out, because the dude's like in his 70s. And he's been doing this since the 70s, which is
I was
weird.
ready to be a dynasty, and his family would just take it over.
Well, that's the thing, though. His son isn't around and doesn't seem to want anything to do with it. He's fired his son-in-law, Triple H, who was running NXT, which is like their kind of minor league, sort of like their C show.
Right.
He was running that, and they were doing better numbers than the regular main shows, which is weird. But then he got fired, or he got let go. But he had his own health issues. He had a heart attack and stuff like that. So I don't know what's going on with him, but he got let go. Then his daughter was like, I'm out of here. I'm stepping down. And she stepped down. Well, now Vince McMahon has stepped down from being CEO, and the son-in-law and daughter are back in. And now they're...
Is she still married to Triple H?
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the outside, that's what it looks like. Yeah, I don't know if there's ever been any, you know what I mean? I don't think it's like her mom and dad, but
right.
Yeah, as far as I know, they're fine. The two of them are fine. I've never heard nothing about them too. So, but now they're back in, and there's this guy, Nick Khan, who's been running pretty much the day-to-day operations and the financials for this company for the past 2 years. And that's why every 6 months, every 3 months, you hear about, I don't know if anybody hears anything. If they hear it, they probably ignore it because they say professional wrestling and everybody just tunes out. But like every 3 to 6 months, you see these people getting released. They're like a big group of released wrestlers, and they list all these people and all this stuff. And that's been going on like for the past year and a half, 2 years. Like every couple of months, it's like, oh, they released a whole bunch of people. And the rumor is that this Nick Khan guy is trying to trim all the fat on the company to make it look as profitable as possible, so that somebody will come in and buy it, because that's what Vince McMahon wants. He wants out. But then all this stuff started, and so he was just like, well, you know what, pal? I'm just going to step down as CEO. And he's quote unquote, he's still in charge, but he quote unquote has stepped away from the business due to all these allegations.
But is this just the stuff that's on like the show, or is it real life? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if all that show shit is legitimate. No, it's just drama that they do for the sake of the show. You know,
this stuff is legitimate. I don't know about. I don't know. Yeah, that's not a storyline or nothing. But because like all these girls have signed NDAs and they all received a payment, some form of payment, of $1 million or $2 million or whatever it is from his own personal account. And the rumor going around is that it wasn't any of these women who said anything. It was like their friends, kind of like the Monica Lewinsky thing, where it was like, well, she didn't say anything. It was this, whatever that other chick's name, the ugly one who was jealous.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's a lot of pretty girls, in general, in and around that organization, be
right.
it managers or even wrestling girls and things of that nature. And they've been coming in and out of that place for decades now. And
right.
One would think if he was like a Bill Cosby, let's say, that there would be a lot more women coming out of the woodwork, especially considering
right.
the money that he does control. I don't know how rich that guy. He's richer than everybody else, but I don't know how rich. I mean, the McMahons are, because they do start things like the XFL that fall apart, and I'm sure there was a lot of money lost in that kind of thing.
But they're walking away like, oh well.
It's like
we lost. I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, wrestling's interesting to me. I know they keep getting new fans all the time from young kids that watch it. It's usually in that tween era where you're not quite a teenager yet, or just a very young teenager, and you're into wrestling. That's when I was watching it when I was a kid and everything. And some
Right.
people keep watching it the rest of their lives, like you.
Oh yeah.
But I think like it's kind of it's sort of like a mostly safe family type of entertainment. You're not going to
Well,
see too much risque stuff on wrestling. Oh, okay. You don't think it's good for families to watch wrestling? That's what you're
no. What I was going to say is they seem to go in cycles because if you remember, like when we were growing up, the '80s, it was just basically a dude in his underwear, two dudes in their underwear, wrestling around. And occasionally there'd be like a guy, he's a plumber. He was a plumber and he's disgruntled and now he wants to beat people up. So like people just got like silly gimmicks and stuff, right? And that was all kid friendly or whatever. And then in the '90s they went into the Attitude Era where they started flipping the bird and saying swear words and chicks were having bras and panty matches and they were doing like the divas and it was like all about TNA and all this. You know what I mean? It was like it got really the jokes, double entendres, and all this stuff. I mean, it got really adult. And then in the 2000s, it went back to being like PG. They even said they're like, we're going back to a regular PG rating. And now, as of actually this past week, they said they're stepping into a PG for some other rating. I can't remember what they called it, something 14. And they said now we're switching our focus to this, and it's like they seem to go in cycles where it's like they hook you as a kid, they hook a group as a kid, and they bring them forward with them, and then they change their show because the kid's a little bit older now, and now he wants to see chicks in bikinis, or you know what I mean? There's like you want to see the dude, I don't know, being cool and being badass, throwing people around, and then once you're past that, those people are hooked. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you do. And they just go back to the beginning again, make it PG rated for all the kids. And they kind of like, that's what I was thinking because
yeah,
they just switched it up again. So it's like, oof. But the biggest
yeah.
demographic is over 35. Just so you know, television ratings. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, older people, I guess, watch it. I don't, the demographic. But, I mean, when you look at the audience, there's just a crap load of kids.
Yeah. There's a lot of
I mean,
kids.
it's not filled with the guys in suits or anything. It's a bunch of kids. I realize that it has its markets. I'm not knocking it. I'm not.
Right.
I know I mean, it's on for like 2 hours, twice a week, and that's just the two main shows. And then you've got all these spin-off shows, and then you have competition from other shows. I mean, wrestling is huge. I totally get it.
Right.
I find that fascinating though that it is is I guess what it is it's like what I find fascinating about it is I understand the draw. Like I get wrestling. Like I understand what's going on here. Guys and girls are coming out with a lot of drama, right? And it's a lot
Yeah.
of this fun sort of fake drama, but
Storytelling.
and then it results in sort of this faux violence in the
Yeah.
ring kind of competition thing that you know it's not fake, but it's not real either. It's sort of they probably know who's going to win the match, but they still beat the shit out of each other
Right.
in the ring, and people get injured all the time and all that kind of stuff. I get it. What I find interesting about it is like no other like sport has gone in this same direction. It's like wrestling has this thing, but like you could almost say like the UFC sort of has like a legitimized version of wrestling and boxing or something. It's mostly the UFC's destroyed boxing. Barely anybody watches boxing anymore.
Right.
But it's kind of like and I think at one time Howard Stern was talking about this to Vince McMahon way back in the first XFL days, because he was saying to Vince, he was like, well, you know what you ought to do with the show, or with the football team, is you ought to have these background stories like you do with wrestling. You should have these guys in the locker room talking shit, and all this kind of stuff with each other, and all this, and then and then they bring it out on the field, and that would be exciting. And I think Vince McMahon said something like, "Well, I'd like to talk to you about that. You know, we could
Yeah.
do something." You know, but he just wanted Howard's money to keep that thing going.
Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah.
the thing is like outside of Vince McMahon, like nobody else, like Howard Stern's right. Like you could do that with other things, but it seems like nobody else goes after that market, and it's kind of funny in that way. Like you totally could take a more, and I think like for a moment, I think ESPN brought bowling back, right? And
Right.
they were having it so like guys could talk shit about each other on while they were bowling, and that brought some eyes to the game. But then I think they made it more serious again or cleaned it up.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know, man. McMahon, if he does retire, it could be the end of wrestling because he seems to be. Maybe his family will keep doing it, but he seems to have the right idea in terms of the level of how far to push the envelope, and like Ted Turner when he had WCW, he couldn't do it. Like they couldn't push the envelope the same way. So most of these other wrestling things don't get the same ratings because they don't know how to push the envelope like Vince McMahon does. And maybe McMahon is okay with like risking his business to keep those things going where other guys might bow to sponsors because sponsors might be like, we don't really like that part of it, like we'd like you guys to like not say that stuff or clean it up or, maybe not have that character, and people would be like, well, money talks. So we'll do what you want. But where Vince has like tons of money and he has all this branding, he can get away with it. I don't know what the answer is, but I do find it fascinating that he's managed to sort of capture this market and, yeah, I would be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know. When did he buy it? Did he buy it in like 80 or something? Or because they used to be owned by Titan, right? Like in the
No, it was his father who owned it.
So his father owned the
Vince McMahon Sr.
Okay, and he owned Titan. Was it Titan Sports?
No, it was just WWF. There was WWF. There was 3 W's back in the 70s.
Something before that though.
The company name is Titan Sports.
Okay.
That's who runs the WWE. I guess you know what I mean. It's like their trademarked business behind the scenes or whatever. That's why it's like Titan can do all the other stuff. You know what I mean? They can get into XFL that way. I think something like that. It's not necessarily WWE, but it's the same kind of. It's under the same umbrella, so it can mix and match and stuff like that. But no, his dad ran the territory before he did, but McMahon picked it up. I want to say he bought it somewhere in the mid 80s, something like that.
Okay.
Or after his father died. I think his father died and he took over.
I think I vaguely remember him being around, but he wasn't.
He was an announcer. He was like a backstage interviewer. He wasn't the owner. He wasn't Mr. McMahon until that didn't come around until like 96, 97 when he got into a feud with Steve Austin. And then he really became the character.
It really kind of came more to, I think he became more of a character when they were competing against WCW.
Right. Yeah, that would have been 96, 97. And that was the answer to Ted Turner because Ted, like you said, Ted Turner was more family friendly. Bright colors, neons, everybody's smiling, everybody's happy. Ooh, boo the bad guys, that kind of thing.
Right.
But then when the NWO started, that's when it started to get. They were like, oh, we're going to get a little more adult themed kind of things going on, and not as big as McMahon. McMahon was, he had that 70-year-old lady give birth to a hand. And there was like the time they talked about Kane raping a dead body and stuff, and her name was Katie Vick, something like that. It was just like, what is going on? Like what? Like, why are you telling these stories? This is, because that's all wrestling is storytelling. It's just like any other TV show that's out there. It's you know what I mean? Everybody's always like, oh, wrestling's scripted. It goes, yeah, so was Friends. But everybody loved that. You know what I mean? It's like, Big deal. The biggest misconception by people who don't watch wrestling is thinking that people who do watch wrestling think it's real. Like, you know what I mean? Because people will be like, "Oh, you watch wrestling? Oh, you think that's real?" It's like, well, no. I mean, it's real, but it's it's predetermined. I mean, these guys are really flying off a turnbuckle, going through a table.
Right.
I was trying to explain it to my girlfriend the other day because I put on wrestling while she was sitting there. She's like, "Go ahead, you go watch wrestling." So I put a cage match on or whatever. This dude starts bleeding all over the place, and she's like, "Oh, look at the fake blood." And I was just like, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah, the fake blood." I go, "No, you don't understand something." I go, "That blood's real." I go, "Look at it, it's coming out of his head. Like it's just dripping down his face. It's all over the place." She goes, "That's fake." And I'm looking at her like, what? How do you fake? I mean, okay, I know people are like, "Oh, you put a blood capsule in, right? Oh, like Gene Simmons, right? Blood capsule." But this guy is continuously bleeding. Like it hasn't stopped. Like you can see it gushing out of his head. Like,
yeah, she just doesn't know the background of wrestling. I mean, the bleeding is part of it. It's not.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, these guys cut themselves. Who would want to cut themselves? I'm like, oh God, you know what? Never mind. I was like, just stop saying the blood is fake. You can say whatever you want about it. Just don't say anything about the blood being fake because you look stupid. And then she got mad because I said that. I was just like, well, I mean, you're not stupid, but
she doesn't know.
Yeah,
Maybe she should watch that movie with Mickey Rourke, the wrestler.
Yeah,
that's going.
Oh, we've seen it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's seen it.
Kind of shows you what they go through.
She needs to watch Behind the Mat or Beyond the Mat.
Behind the Mat. Yes.
That's the good one. But anyways, that's
So it's wrestling's interesting. Yeah, no, I do find that
if he sold it to somebody else or something, I mean, it'll continue to go on, whether it's in his family or not, because it's a viable business that makes a lot of money. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of good wrestling minds, and I know that doesn't sound right to some people. They're just like wrestling minds because, like I said, it's storytelling. Everything is put in its spot for a reason. Like, why did the guy hit him with the chair here but not here? Because there's a reason for that. It's part of the, it's part of the whole story.
Listen, wrestling will go on, but I don't know if the WWE will go on because
it will.
Management. It changes, they can spend all the money, they can ruin the television contracts, they can blow up their sponsorship deals, not to mention they can have serious controversies. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong to cause the business itself to go belly up.
Right.
The brand has some value, but I don't know. But certainly somebody else would step in to take their place that would run the organization better. And
I mean, even like you still got like Ring of Honor, you got AEW. Like there's other wrestling companies, Impact. I mean, there's other wrestling shows on TV. It's like if you think about it, there's 3 different wrestling companies on TV. There's a show on Monday for WWE. There's a show on Tuesday. Wait, no, I don't think anybody does Tuesday. Not anymore. WWE used to be on Tuesday, but then they moved it to Wednesdays.
It was weird that Ted Turner decided to enter that market.
Go head to head with him.
Yeah, just to come out of nowhere in a way. Like he just sat there and was like, I want to get a piece of this. I'm going to hire all these people and start my own wrestling league.
WCW has been there the whole long time. Even when I was a kid, that was TBS Saturday night, 6:05. Because remember how TBS used to always start 5 minutes after.
Wasn't TBS owned by Turner? I mean, I think it was.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is like WCW's been around for a long, long time. And it's like, it's not something that he was suddenly like, oh, I want to do this. You know what I mean? It was just, I don't know. It was like, I guess going
into it or something. I don't know. You're right.
Right. He decided, okay, hey, they're making money over there. I'm going to go ahead and start backing this, and then he started pimping it. But like, yeah, I guess you're right. He was just kind of like, well, then let's go up against him head to head, which was professional suicide. You know what I mean?
I mean, it just was a waste of money, I suppose. I mean, but it did introduce some new characters, and I think for a little while there they were competitive. But I mean, I don't think
they were 83 weeks.
Oh yeah.
83 weeks WCW beat WWE in the ratings.
Okay, there you go.
That's the Monday Night Wars. Dude. There's a lot of fucking stories out there. But yeah, the WCW was winning the ratings war for head to head on Monday nights, 83 weeks straight.
And then they got Steve Austin to come out.
And then And then
they started flicking people off and drinking beer.
Right. They were just like, this dude's cool.
We gotta watch that guy instead of Goldberg.
Well, no, the thing is WWE was doing the same thing and getting the good numbers. WCW had to do so much just to get above them that after 83 weeks, they were just like, dude, what else can we do? People are getting sick of this. You know what I mean? It was just, everything just fell apart and the wheels came off and it was just like done. They ran everywhere, everything they could, ran it dry. And then they were like, okay, well, I guess WWE is going to come in and buy you now.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah, I remember when they did that, and then they had a kind of a Hall of Fame special, and to his credit, he got those guys to show up, and pay their respects and all this kind of thing, and
it's all business.
It really is. It's surprising that it's also money. It's all
well, right. That's what business is, money.
Come on the show, and I'll pay I'll pay $10,000 or something.
Well, that's like you were saying earlier, where you're like the people leave and they're disgruntled, and then they come back and they're like, oh, we'll hire you back, and they're like, I love this company. It's like, yeah, because you're getting paid. When you're not getting paid, you hate them because they're paying everybody else and not you.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Did you ever watch Glow when it was on back in the day?
Dude, I was like 15. Of course I did. 14 or something like that. Why wouldn't I?
I remember Wendy Richter. Don't get me wrong. But,
no, she wasn't.
But I don't remember watching Glow. I don't even know what channel that was on. Like, was that on like 61 or something? Like what?
I think so. It was like probably like 61 or 43.
How was Glow even on? Gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, not a lot of them were gorgeous. You know what I mean? There was Mount Fiji. I'll tell you that was her name, Mountain Fiji. So
I mean, I've watched the Netflix special. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Allison Brie is nicer looking than most of the girls out there were probably in Glow. Right. Yeah. And,
I watched it, but not as religiously as because it was
just kind of randomly on. I don't know.
It was like a Saturday night at 7:00.
Okay.
I'd always be out to dinner with my parents or something like that. Come home and catch the last 15 minutes or something.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't on my TV, but I didn't have cable. So that was a thing. We didn't get cable.
Neither did we.
Shit, man. I don't know. Like, we stole it for a little while in like the 80s. And then but like only for like a month or something, right? So, you watch as much MTV as you can in a month until they got rid of it. And then it was kind of bullshit. And in retrospect, I kind of realized that it's like what happened is that my stepbrother had climbed the telephone pole and did something, right? Back then, you just had to splice a wire or something. Right. And the wire that was coming into the back of the TV had cable. And, you didn't need a cable box. We didn't have a VCR, but we had cable somehow. I don't even remember how, because we had a dial TV, right? Crank it.
Right.
But we didn't have a cable box. So I don't know. I can't remember anymore how we got it, but we did.
Yeah.
And then my parents were like, my dad was like, I don't want that. Get rid of that, because he was afraid that he'd get arrested, and also because there was nudity, right? I had lived in a super religious household that was out. And so like the wire just laid behind the TV, unscrewed. And I was just like, oh, they got rid of it. But in retrospect, I think about it, and I'm like, probably could have just screwed that cable back into the TV. And
would have just good to go.
Cable again, right? And I'm sure that's probably what my parents might have been doing at nighttime when we were all the kids were asleep, if they wanted to watch it. It's just bullshit. But yeah. I don't know. And so then, like, when when I moved out to California, my mom didn't have cable, but she did buy a VCR. So that was like my first exposure to a VCR when I lived out there. And then when I moved back, my dad was so broke, he couldn't afford cable. And so we never had cable. Thinking
Right.
about it in my head, I don't think we ever. When I lived in Jamestown,
I don't remember you having cable.
yeah, I don't think we ever had it. Like, I don't think that was ever a thing.
We never. I can't say when or if you ever had it. I can just say that I've never gone to your place thinking that I was going to watch TV.
Maybe because though
it was either watching.
Taping
You're either watching a movie or doing
balls, right? So we somehow recorded Headbangers Balls. So maybe
I
we did have it. Well, I know you did. I mean, you probably got the earlier ones. I just I think maybe when I got it was probably.
I bet you after Brian came back in.
Yeah, junior, senior year or something at that point. It certainly wasn't in the beginnings. Yeah, because I remember that, watching stuff like that and MTV and everything. But boy, I can't remember, like you say, I can't remember us actually having it. Like, I can't sit there and think to myself, like, did we turn it on? It's like, I don't, those are movies. I don't, no recollection of that, but I know that we did tape Headbangers Ball, and I did watch a lot of that. So, and then there was, I remember watching the cable guide. Remember that one channel where it would tell you what's on, but it would go real slow up the screen. You could spend like half an hour just there watching to try to read through all the channels and see what was to watch.
Just waiting for your channel to come up. You're like, come on. And then somebody says something, you turn your head for a second, you're like, what? And then you look back and you're like, oh, I missed it.
Yep. And then you got to wait through it again. And it's like running these commercials. And it's like, it was in the, public access things that would be on there. They'd be like those, it'd just be like text with some music or something. And it would be like,
bulletin board.
Yeah. The Lions Club is meeting on the 15th of May or something. And you'd just be like, who gives a shit? Like, why is this a whole channel? The
Bay Village Rotary.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like, totally, dumb channels. Like, some people in Cleveland had public access, which might have been interesting. We never had that on our regular cable.
At Cablevision in North Olmsted, like back in the day, they had a channel, but they would only play like local soccer games or whatever. Like,
yeah.
And I think that, like, I remember the Westlake one played like the Battle of the Bands that we were in.
Yeah, see that
one time.
That kind of stuff would be all right. But our graduation was on cable. I taped it. It was on one of the channels. It's on VHS.
Your graduation.
So it's all blue.
I wasn't in.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah, you weren't there. Well, then again, it was,
It's for the people who actually graduated.
I probably should have graduated in 90. So,
Right. It wasn't really yours either.
Right. I was just a guest. Yeah. It's old school cable. That was interesting. You'd get like I was listening to the Always Sunny podcast that they've got, and Mac was talking. He was talking about back in the day when he was a kid, he would watch Cinemax, Skinemax, watch it for the nudity at night. And he was like talking, and he's like, is that still a channel? Is that still a thing? And they were like, we think so. I think Cinemax is still around. And I'm sitting there like, I think it is too, but I don't even know anymore because like cable, you started off with like HBO basically. Like there was HBO, and then eventually there was like Showtime. And then both of them added an extra channel. So you had the movie channel, and you had Cinemax. HBO,
movie channel was the good one.
HBO owned Cinemax, Showtime owned the movie channel, right? And that was it for a while. Like you could get those four, and then they started to add like I think Stars came later, Epics much later, yeah, and then like. You'd start to get these additional HBOs and Showtimes and cinema. So, and I'm sure it's probably like this today. If you have cable and you have one of those pay things, it'd be like, 3 HBOs and 3 Cinemax. There might be like West Coast HBO and East Coast. And then they got crazy with it. And it's all like Spanish HBO, and,
Russian.
Yeah. Russian HBO. And there'd be like 15 different Stars channels. It's like Stars Black, Stars Comedy, Stars Cops, Stars Robbers. I mean, it's just like, my God, man. Like how many of these things do you need?
But that's the thing is like if we had that as a kid, because you think about it, when we were kids, if you had cable, because Clay Mueller had cable, and I would always go down his house.
Sure.
And we would start the day off. We'd be like, we'd grab the TV guide and we'd say, okay, what movies are on today? And the thing is he had HBO and Cinemax and whatever, Showtime.
Right.
He had, just one of each. So it was like, okay, well, this movie's on, this movie's on, this movie's on, and this movie's on. Oh, we don't like any of those. Like
right. Yeah.
So it's like that. But if you got like 5 HBOs, 7 Showtimes, and 3 Cinemaxes, and whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, we got 20 movies to choose from, And then you just
well, that was the thing too. Back in the day, especially, they only had like 10 movies or something that they would play.
Right. They show the same one over and over again.
Over and over again, all week long. They just move the time slots around. You'd be like, I saw that already, and then there'd just be things you didn't want to watch. Yeah.
It'd be like 3 movies. It'd be like, we're going to show you Meatballs, and then we're going to show you Caddyshack, and then we're going to show you Stripes. And then it's like, then we're going to show you Meatballs, Caddyshack, and Stripes. And you're like, okay, what's next? Meatballs, Caddyshack, and Stripes.
And then you'd have to wait for like basically like the night or the weekend movie or something, and they would have a new one, and then they would play that all week or something. Like it took them a long time to add stuff, and you'd have to have Showtime and the movie channel and stuff, because if you wanted to watch all the recent releases that came out in theaters eventually on cable, you had to have all the channels because they all had some sort of exclusivity with each other. It's before VHS. VHS was a whole, was a lifesaver when it came to watching movies, even if the quality was not great. Didn't care. Just go get a movie, get like 3 movies on a Friday night or something, go home and just watch them. Like,
as long as I could watch Hard Bodies, that's all I wanted to do.
Oh my God. There we go.
We loved that movie as a kid. Me and Clay Mueller watched that so much.
Those fucking booby movies from back in the day.
Right.
Cable. I don't know. And they only had like, basic cable only had like, at first it only had like 60 some channels or something. And not all of them were anything. Like some of them were public access and stuff. And then the channels that did, like, you didn't have all this reality TV. Like MTV just played music. History Channel just talked about history.
Hitler.
Hitler Channel. Discovery just had things about like animals and stuff. Like it just, there wasn't guys hunting Bigfoot or any of that shit going on.
Every channel played what they were named.
Right. Yeah, it was true. For sure. Yeah. Well, like A&E, Arts and Entertainment, I mean, that was shit. You turn that on, it used to be like ballet or stuff like that. Like, and same with Bravo. Like Bravo,
the improv.
It'd be like, it'd be guys that, in a play or something, and you'd just be like, what is this shit? I'm not watching. You know what I mean? Like, those channels didn't even matter.
Yeah.
And there'd be a lot of English stuff that would be on some channels, and it's like Jane Eyre or something. I don't know. And people like, I ain't watching this either. Like, there would be so much crap. And ESPN, there was one ESPN, and ESPN in the early days, they didn't have any deals. You know what I mean? They didn't have any, like,
wasn't as popular as it is now.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have a deal with the NFL or NBA or anything. Like, they didn't have any of those things on their network because cable wasn't that big versus the actual big 3. You know what I mean? So they weren't going to give them licenses to anything. Eventually, they get hockey in the 90s. But then there was just one ESPN and
people would be like, I got ESPN on cable, and other guys would be like, what do you need ESPN for? I've got Wide World of Sports on Channel 5.
Yeah, the funny thing is, and a lot of people didn't buy cable because of the selection of shows or to even watch movies, right? Because the movie channels were kind of expensive at a time period when every dollar counted back then. But people actually got cable for the reception because TV reception, over the air before digital, when it was analog TV, was terrible. Horrible. I mean, you could get like a couple of channels that would come in good, but a lot of other channels, you would have to watch that channel with like static lines going through it.
Out.
Yep, ghost images, shitty sound, and that was the best you could do. Like some nights, I mean, because it was an atmosphere thing too. Some nights was just there. You couldn't dial the antenna, move it around, attach things to it, you were just fucked. Like the channel was coming in like shit. And if you wanted to watch that show, that's what you had to do.
Yeah.
And it was maddening to the point that people were just like, I'll pay the $35 because that's probably what it cost back then, for basic cable, because I got to have a clean picture, you know? And, and it was a miracle, really, to suddenly have all the channels that you would normally watch and the picture would be, you know, perfect, you know?
Right.
And I think that was the major reason why cable was originally adopted. Yeah.
People used to have to climb on their roofs to get TV signal.
Yeah.
Because people would be like, I got no signal. They'd be like, go climb up on the roof and readjust the antenna. And like the worst thing was when you'd get up to the TV and you adjust the antenna. It's like clear picture, clear sound. Everything's cool. As soon as you let it go and walk away, just like, ah.
Right. You have to sometimes, you'd have to stand there and just hold the rabbit ear to get the picture in right. And if you didn't, no good. I remember one time my dad yelled at me because he was like, your Commodore computer screwed up the TV. I used to get this channel in fine, and now it's all screwed up. I'm like, Dad, it doesn't work like that. Like, I don't want you using it anymore or something.
Right.
I'm just like, what are you talking about? It's ridiculous. It's so dumb. Yeah, but that's because, you know, it was that level of annoying that my dad would be mad because the TV was, you know, staticky and you know, it was
There's nothing you could do about it.
Nope. Some shows would be blurring into other shows. You'd see like another show, like a ghostly show in the background, kind of happening while you're watching a show.
Right.
You know, and God forbid you were around anybody that had like a high-powered like CB radio or something driving by, and it would just come barking through your speaker.
Yeah. All of a sudden on your TV, you're watching Sanford and Son. All of a sudden, you're just like, what the hell?
Yep. It was so messed up, man. So yeah, cable. That's the draw wasn't the programming; it was the reception. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for the show, everybody.
That's it.
We'll be back next week with more reminiscing about old electronics or whatever the hell we're going to talk about.
Tell you how horrible our lives were.
Exactly. Enjoy your modern reception, everyone. Have a good night.
You're welcome. Peace.
You've been listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. If you'd like to write into the show, send an email to oblast@vgn.us. That is VGN as in video game news. And be sure to check out our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/VGN, where you can get all of our shows, our videos, and some musings. Be sure to tune in each week for new episodes on our Patreon page or every other week on the public RSS feed that you're subscribed to now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Peace.